Good evening. This is the May 10th meeting of the City of South Pasadena Public Works Commission. Clerk, would you call a roll, please?
Chair Katina,
Here.
Commissioner Sam Hernandez. Absent. Commissioner Charles Trevino. Absent. Commissioner David Mailing,
Present.
Vice Chair Ryan Jones. You have a quorum.
Thank you. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Face the flag, hands over your heart. Again, I pledge allegiance to the flag
Of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, the next item is public comments. 4 have been received through email. And those items will be available on the website to review what was presented. Do we have any public comment cards tonight for this meeting from people present?
We have no public comment cards and we have no one raising their hands on Zoom.
Okay, thank you. Next item is an update from the city manager's office by Deputy City Manager Dominica Megardician.
Good evening, Commissioners. Dominica Megardician with the City Manager's Office, and good evening, Mayor Pro Tem Znaimer. Thank you so much for accommodating me on your agenda tonight. I'm making my tour of commissions and boards and providing some updates from across the agency as a personal touch to our commissions, as well as hopefully answering any questions that you may have at this time of the City Manager's Office. I provided some documents and light reading for your review at another time, and I'll reference these documents shortly. So from across the agency, the last 12 to 18 months have been a biggie for us. We've returned our programming and our events. We've recruited and hired over 70 staff members. We've delivered timely audits and budgets, including a capital improvement program. We have delivered an on-time mid-year budget report presented to City Council on March 15th, and we've launched our budget process. We just closed a community survey, an online survey where 165 community members provided some input on it. And we have upcoming community workshops and input opportunities that I'll share with you shortly. We've implemented our 2021-26 strategic plan that was adopted in fall of 2021. We're about 50% through with the strategic plan implementation. And as you know, we've onboarded a new city council person and a new city treasurer, and feel it's right about the right time for us to revisit the strategic plan, make sure that the priorities are as they should be at this point, give an opportunity for a newly elected to provide some input and ensure that it still aligns with the priorities of the community, as well as that it's well resourced within the budget so that we move forward intentionally with that document. We've developed and launched a citywide mobile app, South Pass Mobile. It's available on Apple and Android devices. If you download it, it's an opportunity for you to access information at your fingertips, as well as submit any requests for service. One of the most prominent features of the new mobile app is that it has a geo-tagging capability. So if you see something in the community, you take a photo and upload it. It is smart enough to let the appropriate team know for their follow-up and service. We have a RFP out that's closing at the end of next week, I believe, for a new user-friendly city website that's welcoming and well-maintained and a good introduction to the city. We have connected with our community across social media, community meetings, surveys, and input sessions. We have established a number of documents, quarterly newsletters, social services resource guide, elderly adults resource guide to further engage with our constituents. As you know, we've returned our Commissioner Congress and aligned our elected and appointed officials on priorities and funding. We just recently completed a strategic plan for the library, and if you joined us on May 3rd, there was a special meeting with the Library Board of Trustees focused on the review of the strategic plan and next steps for a site planning process for a new and revamped library site. We've launched our economic development strategy, which includes a business concierge service, a case-by-case assistance, site selection, resources, and more to usher in new business and support the business that exists and invests in South Pasadena. At City Hall, we have an interdepartmental effort to implement the City Hall electrification project, and you might have seen this or heard of this in the news the last couple of days. Last week, the MSRC group at the AQMD, the Air Quality Management District, granted or took motion to grant the city $500,000 to support the electrification project. So all the news outlets have connected on this. This project entails a infrastructure effort at City Hall, as well as the transition of police fleet to electric vehicle charged vehicles. We currently have closed the RFP for new city attorney services that has been released. And we're working very closely with a council subcommittee on the next steps and currently undergoing negotiations. We do anticipate the award of a new contract on June 7th. And just to touch on the budget process one more time, we have the Finance Commission meeting for the budget input session next Tuesday on the 16th. That's open to the public. We have a couple of public input sessions on May 18th, 10 a.m. and 6:30 p.m. open to the public for their input if they haven't already submitted, as well as a council workshop that we'll be hosting with the City Council on May 30th for input on that document before the proposed document is considered for adoption. In Public Works specifically, we've completed an organizational assessment. So we're assessing all of our departments for organizational assessments. What that means is it's a look at staffing, workflows, resources, industry best practices, and presenting those results to the City Council with actionable next steps so that we can make sure that we're delivering the agency in each department to that next level. There's been strategic hiring and strategic processes through Public Works. We just most recently hosted a State of Streets, a study session on streets. And one of the big input sessions on the budget so far has been, please invest in our streets, please invest in our infrastructure. And it's absolutely an area where Ted and Tenna and their team have made that commitment to work very closely with council and with the commissions to deliver upon those expectations. And we've also enlisted a number of consultants who are experts in their fields through the on-call services agreements that we continue to establish to ensure that we are able to divide and conquer all of the work that Public Works is trying to accommodate for the departments as well as for the community. Just for some upcoming dates for your calendars, we do have the next Commissioner Congress coming up on June 28th. It's our opportunity at the city to thank you for your service as volunteer appointed officials at the city, to review the accomplishments of the year, as well as to look at the workflow and the work plans for the year ahead. And just a moment to touch base on the documents that I've shared with you here. We have the flyer for the South Pass Mobile. This is a QR code. All of the information that I've shared with you in writing here and in hard copy is also available on the website as well as on the mobile app in case you want to share it with anyone. So we have that. We have the strategic planning document. Our guide to doing business is one of the things that we've developed in economic development, where it really holds the hand of the business owner or prospective business owner and make sure that it's sharing with them what resources are available, who to contact. And of course, they can always contact the city manager's office where our economic development team is housed. We have the older adults resources pamphlet, which was just recently launched about a month ago. This is for adults who are aging in South Pasadena, as well as their caretakers. I did mention to you that we also have a social services resource guide that's out. The impetus behind that is that while we're not a direct social service provider to the community, there's a number of providers that do touch our community and serve our community. In sharing the resources that are currently available, we do hope that we're able to identify any gaps of service so that staff can ensure that we are making those intentional steps of creating new partnerships and leveraging new resources that community members might need. I've also shared with you our quarterly updates. This was originally established and launched as a Public Works and community development, like major developments, but there were too many updates to want to share across the agency. So this is continuing to evolve. And we do hope to establish something in the year ahead where we're sending residents and businesses, community members, something in print on a quarterly basis to really make some of these updates accessible to your fingertips. And finally, a year in review, just telling the story of 2022. I know that we're about halfway through 2023, but wanted to share with you all of the efforts and investments that we've made across the agency and under this new leadership. That concludes my updates to you tonight, but I'm available if you have any specific questions.
Are there any questions?
I'd just like to say that this is very impressive, your presentation and the services that you are offering for the residents of South Pasadena. You know, I'm sure there other cities do the same thing, but for a city of only 20,000 plus residents, this is very comprehensive. So thank you very much.
Thank you, and it's our pleasure.
Thank you very much for appearing.
Thank you.
The next item is a discussion item regarding the capital improvement program, annual report and work plan.
Thank you, Chair Catania, and good evening, Commissioners and Mayor Pro Tem. So tonight we are talking about our capital improvement program for the upcoming fiscal year, and then also touching on our annual report and work plan. And so as Dom had mentioned, one of the reasons we're talking about this tonight is next month we will have our Commissioner Congress on June 28th. And if you recall, the format from this for last year was that each commission gets 2 or 3 minutes to highlight their work from the past year, essentially what is the highlights on their annual report, and then talk about highlights of the work that will be coming up in the work plan for fiscal year 23-24. So for this commission that focuses on public works, mostly infrastructure projects, this past year, our work plan consisted of several of capital improvement projects, and we're anticipating that will be the same thing for the work plan next year. So we had planned tonight to go briefly through our capital improvement program, all of the several dozen projects that we have in the program, talk about what we accomplished this past year. And that'll be basically slide number 1 of our Commissioner Congress presentation, and then talk about the projects that we'll take on next year, and then any feedback you have on things you'd like to be discussed before the commission. So with that said, quick overview of some of this commission's accomplishments. And as you know, we meet every other month, so we actually have gotten quite a lot done in the short time that we have to review these items. And Dom had mentioned some of these as well. So this commission had reviewed the City Hall fleet electrification infrastructure projects. We went through the whole gambit of what that entailed, both the police electrification conversion, the Edison Charge Ready program for the level 2 chargers that we are now working on the design for in the City Hall on police and fire lot. And then also the Clean Power Lines Power Ready program, which this is the solar panels that are being installed, that will be installed across the street here in the Mound parking lot. And that is actually in its electrical, that's in the request for offer stage with the Clean Power Alliance. So basically, developers are on board and they're going through their second round of review for that project. We also went over the West Side Reservoir seismic and structural evaluation this year, and we got some feedback on that so that we can move on to design for the West Side Reservoir. We went over all of our Arroyo Seco stormwater projects and are currently moving forward with wrapping up the design for the San Pasqual project, which we talked about at length, and you gave us some great feedback that we tried to incorporate in some of our design. And we will be moving on to the next project on that list of this coming year. And then also in our work plan was moving forward with some of our city building facility assessments, and though we didn't get to cover it in this commission just yet, we're just wrapped up our library facilities assessment, our first of the city buildings assessment. So we'll be talking about that. So these are all of our accomplishments for the year. So rolling right into our capital improvement program. So we have just a brief overview of all the projects that are on this list. I won't go through each one in detail, but we'll just briefly mention. So on this list, you'll see some that have a little asterisk next to them. Those are new projects in that they've either been added to the program or because we started this 5-year program last fiscal year, these are projects that were starting in year 2 and now we're moving into year 2. So that's why they're popping up on the list. So some of these projects you're already familiar with that we have started. We've done quite a bit of work on the citywide facilities assessment and facility repairs. We'll be moving into the security enhancement component of that next year. We have a couple things on there that have staff has done some work, but we have yet to actually design or construct, like some of the internal facilities upgrades at the police department, replacing the front of the front doors on the fire station. And then next year, we're adding a replacement of the fire department diesel exhaust system. This is basically the hoses that attach to the trucks that when they leave the station, those pop off. So we want to replace that system. And then we're also adding a project to replace the remainder of the flooring at the senior center. So that there was some of that was done a couple of years ago. We'll be finishing up that work this fiscal year. Under a new category on the capital improvement program is the housing authority category. So we have a residential facility that the city owns. This is the house that's across from the 3 baseball fields over off of San Pasqual, through 8 San Pasqual Drive. So we're going to use some of the revenue that we get from that tenancy to actually make some improvements to that residence. And we plan to start doing some of that this year. In the IT section of our capital improvement program, one item that was on our work plan for this current year was the CMS system, the computerized maintenance management system. We didn't get to that this year just because of our lack of time and resources, but we're going to roll that onto our work plan for next year so we can accomplish that. And that's basically a system that allows us to track all of our citywide assets, water, sewer, trees, street lights, traffic signals, that type of thing. And then we have some other software systems that we'll be supporting across the agency for our department and other departments. We have a very long list of community services and parks projects in our capital improvement program, but the ones that are active in year 2 are the ones listed here. We've completed the design of the Gravalia and Berkshire pocket parks, and now we're moving into the construction of those parks this coming year. We are moving into the second phase of the golf course driving range netting replacement. If you recall, last year we worked on replacing the netting on the north side along the bike path, and we are moving into the design phase for the remainder of that netting on the equestrian trail side, the Pasadena Avenue side. And then new projects that are coming in this year are looking at a parks master plan. So basically an assessment of all of the condition of the parks and what the costs and timelines would be to make improvements across the board. And then also moving into the design phase to upgrade the snake trail facilities and seeing if that's feasible to make that a more usable pathway to the Southwest Hills. We have a long list of library capital projects. Some of these were already identified previously, and we've worked on some of them, including HVAC repairs. And we, after our library facilities assessment, which we'll be reviewing with this commission, we found some other items that need to be added to this list. Now, the good news with the library is that we are about to file a grant application with the state that would fund more than 50% of some of these projects. And so that's something that we're excited about. So we're filing that application, and if we are awarded, that will make it a lot easier to facilitate some of these projects, including much needed roof replacement, and then some other like accessibility improvements at the library. Then we have some of our 3 utility type projects. We have sewer, stormwater, and sustainability. For the sewer side, we didn't talk about this a whole lot, but in wrapping up the city's, in continuing the city's sewer consent judgment to replace needed sewer infrastructure, we'll be bringing some projects to discuss with the commission this year. During our state of streets session with the council and the transportation commission a couple weeks ago, we talked about coordinating these efforts with some of the street improvements that we plan on doing. So I should clarify that the ones that are bold and underlined are some of the ones that we want to bring forward to this commission on the 23-24 work plan. So if that CMS project, some of these recreational improvements and sewer improvements to talk about with this commission. The commission is really familiar with our stormwater projects. We've talked about these at length this year. So we will continue moving these projects forward. And as I said, we'll be constructing the San Pasqual wetland in 23-24, beginning construction. And then lastly, on this page, our sustainability projects, including, small initiatives in our climate action plan. And then as well as the charging infrastructure that we talked about moving forward with the design and installation of that project in this fiscal year. So we talk mostly about streets and sidewalks in the Transportation Commission, but it's also appropriate just to inform this commission here. In our State of Street session, we talked about the different bid packages that are currently being prepared to do both restructuring work and resurfacing work throughout the city. And then a master planning effort to basically identify streets in the years moving forward and how we're going to fund those. That'll be some of the work we take on this year. And then we have a long list of transportation projects that are funded by multiple sources, Measure M, Measure R, including the traffic signal coordination project, which is the top one on that list along Fair Oaks, mobility improvements along Fremont and Huntington that we're hoping to, we're going to be moving into the planning phase of that project and then hopefully starting design before the end of the fiscal year. And then we have various smaller projects for improvements at various intersections, pedestrian improvements. And at the bottom there, you'll see a citywide mobility active transportation plan update. That's basically the update of our bicycle plan that we plan to take on this year as well. And then last but not least is our water projects. So as we conduct our street repairs where we're able to, we'll be doing some water main improvements. We'll actually be picking up some of the locations that we've recently had leaks. So that's a good thing. And primarily for this commission, we'll be moving to the next phase of the West Side Reservoir work, which is the design phase, and then moving on to construction after that. So that is our capital improvement program in a nutshell. And just to summarize, this is what we're proposing to look at for our 23-24 work plan. The CMS system implementation, recreational facilities improvements, including the pocket park construction, the driving range netting replacement, and then the snake trail design, various sewer system repair, rehabilitation, or replacements as needed based on the condition and the requirements under our consent judgment, the West Side Reservoir design, and then moving forward with some of our stormwater projects, namely constructing the San Pasqual project, and then also, as we talked about in this commission, the installation of cisterns over in this parking lot that would capture a stormwater, and then later the solar panels will be built over that parking lot. So with that, any questions about the program, the annual report highlights, our work plan highlights, or in general about the Commissioner Congress in June? I'll add that for the Commissioner Congress, we'll prepare these slides and ask whoever can attend, whether it's the chair, the vice chair, or another commissioner. We'll give you some talking points on those slides for your very brief 2-minute presentation to the other commissions. Okay. Mayor Pro Tem.
Are you in the midst are you doing the project to capture the groundwater from? Is apart from separate from the areas?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we have envisioned 5 projects along the Arroyo Seco. The first one is the one we talked about, I think, during our last meeting, at the wetland on the San Pasqual north side. The second one is under the south fields, the soccer baseball field there. And we had applied for funding for the entire 5 projects, but it's about the first project is funded and is being built, but the remainder of the 4 projects, it's about a $34 million price tag. So we applied for funding with the county, but it was we got rejected, just like many other cities do. So we're actually going to break the projects up, and we're going to apply for funding for facility 2 next, which is the South Arroyo Fields, which not only would allow us to capture stormwater, but would allow us to improve the soccer and the baseball field. And actually next week at council, we're hoping to bring an item that Caltrans will 50% match the funding for that project if we move forward with it. So to answer your question, the other projects, there's one at the golf course, which is it's a wetland, but it looks like basically like a water feature, an infiltration basin at the driving range. And then lastly, a completely natural bioswale / wetland at the nature park, which would basically be, right now there's a stormwater outlet right along Pasadena Avenue. You kind of have to get in there real close to see it. It's on the south west corner of the nature park. So stormwater basically runs through that, runs over the nature park, and then goes onto the trail and then into the Arroyo Seco. So we would basically build like a tree habitat that would basically, retain a lot of that water and let it infiltrate naturally into the ground. So that's what we're calling facility 5. Now, facility 5 isn't really all that expensive because it doesn't require any sort of major construction work. So we're actually going to try to fund facility 2, the Caltrans South Arroyo Fields project, and facility 5 at the same time. So that's our objective. But so sorry for the long answer, but to give you the perspective there, the answer is yes, that we do have a project plan for that location.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
2 item actions on the agenda are minutes of the regular meeting of the March 8th and minutes of the special meeting for March 8th. In looking at the actual minutes that were on the agenda, it indicates that there was a motion to approve the regular meeting minutes for March 8th. I suspect that may be a typo and it should have been approval from a prior meeting, but I'm going to ask for concurrence with the other members of the commission that this matter, item 4, be held until the next meeting, give clarification on that. Is there any opposition to that, or just continue it?
You want to?
I think we should. I'm not sure. The confusion I have is the minutes
Item
themselves
3.
state they were approved, but they weren't.
Sure, you're looking at item 3 here?
Item 4.
Item 4.
Yes. Item 4 on the agenda and
Mhm.
item 3 on the minutes.
Got it. I see your point.
Yeah, and that may be a typo, and it may have been that we approved the prior minutes for the prior meeting, but I think if we hold it, we can resolve it by the next meeting. Item 5 is minutes of the special meeting, and there's no indication there that they were approved, so I'll entertain a motion to approve those minutes.
And I will second.
So we have a motion to approve action items 4 and 5 by Chair Katina and Vice Chair Jones,
Oh, that's
Just-
only for
just for
item
5.
5.
only for item 5.
Item 4 is being carried over for some clarification. Any discussion of the minutes? We have a motion. Okay, all in favor, say aye. All opposed, no. Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. The next item is city council liaison announcements.
Yeah, I really enjoyed the presentation of the Arseco watershed program, and I was lucky to be walked through the whole project by the project manager. So I really enjoyed that. Thank you so much.
Okay, are there any commission or communications?
None for me.
On here.
Okay. Item 8 is the staff liaison communications. Hearing none.
So I just have one item to add. Well, we did have a successful outreach session regarding the San Pasqual project last, I think it was a week ago or 2 weeks ago. It's hard to keep track of the time. And we did have some great community input. We'll be having another public outreach session for a different project next Thursday, May 18th at the library. We'll be talking about the Fair Oaks Transportation Project, which includes traffic signal synchronization upgrades, ADA upgrades to some of the ADA curbs along Fair Oaks. And so that's going to be at 6 p.m. Next Thursday, 18th at the South Pasadena Library Community Room. So inviting everybody to join us for that. That's all I had tonight. Thank you.
There's one upcoming event listed on the agenda for Thursday, May 18th. It is a Public Works Fair Oaks North-South Corridor Project event scheduled for 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. in the community room. That completes our agenda. Excuse me. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Adjourn.
Second,
Second.
we're adjourned.
That, oh.